Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Sabrina Berry. I am the Talent Connection Manager for the Lafayette campus, Career Coaching and Employer Connections, and will be serving today as the moderator for the statewide employer panel event as we wrap up Career Development Week. It's been a wonderful week. So welcome to all of our students, to all of our colleagues and prestigious employer panelists from across the state. We really appreciate you taking the time to meet with our students. So today we're going to be focusing on questions that address employability skills, internships, and careers. So we'll dedicate the last 15, maybe 20 minutes of our time together to share additional questions from our panelists, from our students. So put all of your questions in the chat or the Q&A. And if we don't get to all of them during the allotted time, then the remaining answers will be accumulated and we'll get something distributed out to the students. So welcome to all of our panelists again. This is very, very exciting. Super to see all of you. I'm going to start out by asking each of you to tell everyone your name, what industry you're from, what your title is, and maybe one thing you really love about working for the company you are working for currently. So, Anne, if I can start with you, that would be awesome.
Good morning. My name's Ann Duncan. I work at Arlington Rowe. We are an insurance broker. We have our home office in Indianapolis, but we have 9 offices in other states, so we're regional. My title is marketing manager. And one thing I like about my job is working with people. And I have to say one other thing in insurance, there's always something new and different going on and new and different to learn. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, Anne. Thank you. Peter, if you'd like to go next.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name's Pete Lustig. I work at Cummins, based in Columbus, Indiana. Although my office is where I technically sit, no one has sat there for 2 years now, is the Indianapolis distribution headquarters. So my title is Global Sales Training Manager. And I've been with Cummins for 7 years in a variety of roles around training, sales function, marketing function, communications. And I guess the one thing that I really like about my job, or like working at Cummins, is I get to interact with all of our different businesses through the work that I do with product sales training. So I get to learn about all of the different products that we produce in all of the markets that we're in, and really allows me to network across the entire organization and really learn about what it is that we do and how we position our products. So thank you very much for having me, and very glad to be here.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that very much. Aduli, would you like to go next, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you very much for inviting us and for actually setting up this panel. My name is Adole Azu, and I work for IU Health, Indiana University Health. We're headquartered in Indianapolis with dozens of facilities statewide, right? IU Health is actually the regional leader when it comes to providing healthcare services within the state of Indiana. And we're partnering with the IU School of Medicine to train physicians. And my role is Director for Diversity Recruitment for IU Health. So my core responsibility is to actually help increase minority representation within our teams and our leadership, and ensuring that IU Health really has a talent acquisition strategy and selection processes that are inclusive and welcoming to diverse candidates. And the second part of my role is to ensure that once our candidates join us as team members, they feel welcomed and supported so that they want to stay here and provide the best care possible within the state of Indiana. What I enjoy most about my job is that I get this opportunity to interact with a very wide range of stakeholders and individuals, both team members, external to IU Health, internal to IU Health, and to collaborate with them to just create that inclusive community that we're all aiming to reach based on our vision, our mission, and our values. So I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to engaging with the students. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Carrie?
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Carrie Cole. I'm a trainer here at DS Smith. We're located in Lebanon, Indiana. We are a corrugated box company. We make our own corrugate and we convert our box blanks into boxes based on customer specifications. So there is a whole lot to learn about boxes, and I didn't know it till I started working here. But one of the best things I like working at DS Smith is the diversity and the people. And not only do I interact on a corporate level, but I also am with the employees and out on the floor and engaging with them. So I really like that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Liberty?
Hi, my name is Liberty Wilkin. Thank you so much for having me. I work for Eli Lilly. We are a global pharmaceutical company, been in Indianapolis, headquartered for over 145 years. I am the Lilly Professional Apprenticeship Program Manager. So I help to bring in apprentices into our organization for professional roles. I am part of our global diversity and recruiting group. I guess one thing I like about my job, I think, as my fellow panelists have said, I think I agree, all of the above. Get to talk with a lot of different people, and my day can look very different from day to day.
Thank you, Liberty. I appreciate that. Thank you. And Erin, would you like to go next, please?
Sure. I'm Erin Moberg, and I'm one of the recruiters here at First Source Bank. We're a local company across Northern Indiana, Southwest Michigan for our banking centers, but part of our business goes across the United States and even internationally. And I read the question a little bit different. So instead of why I love First Source, my answer is why I love recruiting. And the simple answer is I think life is short, and I love pairing people up with the job that they love. And so they're, happy going to work every day.
That is awesome. Thank you, Erin. And Laura, would you like to jump in? Laura, I think you're muted.
So
Okay.
I could talk, I'll speak to
Okay.
her because I love to
you.
do that while she can talk.
Sounds good.
So I'm the newbie here. I've been here a year and a half. Laura's been with the company 28 years, 29 years. So she's been with us a really long time, but she's also one of the recruiters where we have a team of 4. And she shares recruiting for the banking centers with me. She takes half, I've got about half, and then we both have other departments and areas throughout the bank, like treasury or our business bankers and our retirement plan services departments that we'll also recruit for.
Thank you. We'll work on that, Miss Laura. And Nina, would you go, please?
Hey everyone, sorry if you saw that my cat decided to hit my laptop just as I was going on mute, so my camera went a little wonky. Hi everyone, my name is Nina. I work for Genesis, and Genesis is a tech company. So we are a software as a service company, and we provide contact center solutions. And so essentially in a nutshell, what that is we help our clients help our customers. And so I am one of the recruiters here at Genesis for the North America team. And we have a very big campus in Indianapolis. Our headquarters are actually in California, specifically in the Bay Area. One of our bigger campuses, Indianapolis, and we do a lot of partnerships with our local schools out there, Ivy Tech being one of them. And then we also have one of our other offices in the Raleigh, North Carolina office, but one of our biggest offices, I will say, is in Indianapolis. And I'd have to agree with you, Erin, coming from the recruiting side, hearing folks with jobs that they love, finding out what their passions are, finding out, just all walks of life. We talk to different people, every single day. And that's one of the most rewarding things, I think, too, is once we bring them on, they're super excited and they're just, they're ready to go. So I think that's one of the things that I most enjoy about recruiting. And I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you. We're excited to have you. Thank you, Nina. Laura, I don't know if you were able to get back on. Would love for you to say hello. Oh, she's still muted. That's okay. That's all right. Well, thank you. Thank you. We'll get there. So I'm going to start out with a question that we'll pose to the entire panel to think about. You guys are awesome and so appreciate you being here. So when you think about professional skills in your role, what is the most relevant that you think apply? Soft skills, technical skills, a combination of both. So Pete, I'll ask you that question first.
Sure, great question. I think for me personally, it would be the communication piece. I have found in my role, I came in without having, I came into Cummins organization in 2014 without having a lot of the technical skills that were required for my role, which is instructional design, learning, creating training content, and the communication skills, I think are absolutely key as you learn about your role and grow in your role. I mean, that's something that you can transfer to anything. Any skill can be learned. So for me, it would be communication.
That's awesome. Thank you, Pete, for sharing. Adoli, how about you? What is most important in terms of your professional development and skills? I'm sorry, you're muted.
Yes, so I agree with Peter. Definitely communication skills are critical, right? Because that's how you speak to or engage with your co-workers, the outside world, and that's how you also receive your own instruction, directions, and move forward. But I think the other one that I have always found like really important is that networking capability, right? And collaboration, being able to collaborate, being able to network and remain engaged, right? So that goes really hand in hand with the communication, but networking I have found to be critical to one, remaining relevant in your space, to forming, I guess, the associations and the links you need to advance your career, right? And third, I guess, being able to engage with your maybe mentors or sponsors to be able to, I guess, give off your best, right? So communicating, networking, and collaboration skills are the top of my list.
That's wonderful. That is excellent, excellent advice. Thank you. Liberty, would you like to share?
Sorry, just took me a sec to get unmuted. Forgive me, can you repeat the question? I was actually
absolutely.
messaging Laura, but I think she's got it. I think she's got it taken care of.
Oh, no, you are so good. So really what we're looking for is maybe the most relevant professional skills that impact your role, technical or soft skills.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned initially that I think it really is both. For my role within global recruiting and staffing, the soft skills are very, very important, but the technical skills, particularly for, any computer skills, so to speak. So much of our business is computer related. So Microsoft Office Suite products are extremely important for us to be effective. But specifically for my role in working with people on a daily basis, the soft skills are incredibly important too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's great. Okay. Carrie, would you like to share what are important in terms of your employability skills, professional skills? Ms. Carrie, you're muted. If you'd like to unmute, please, that's okay.
Still, don't worry, I'm still talking to myself. The skills that I find that I use mostly are teamwork, flexibility, and eagerness to learn. But also collaboration and communication is very important, because not only do I communicate with upper management and then corporate people or individuals overseas, I also deal with employees within the company. So communication, collaboration, teamwork, flexibility, all of those things are very important to me.
Oh, thank you for sharing. And I hear a theme going on here with the importance of communication and networking, teamwork. These are really critical and very important points. So Erin, would you like to share?
So everything that I wrote down has been said. I think the most important is that communication, that collaboration, just following up, whether that's, with our new hires, with our candidates, with our hiring managers, and just make sure everybody, you're available for them if they need you and you're communicating with them so they know what's going on at all times.
That's great. That's great. And then Laura, I'm going to try you again and see if you are.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, there you
Yes,
are.
woohoo. I don't give up easy. Erin was my partner. She was shooting me things, and Jessica was shooting me things, and I finally figured it out. I don't know why Zoom calls are so hard for me, but they are,
That's so
since we
okay.
use Teams. So now, because I was working on all that, I did not hear the question. May I have the question one more time?
Absolutely, absolutely. You are so good. So really, we're asking the question, what in terms of your professional skills, what is really important in your role, the technical, soft skills, or combination thereof.
And are we talking about my position or any position?
At this point, let's open it up to any position. As our students are kind of exploring and looking at different areas, I think that would be great to address.
I did hear the last couple of people say communication, and that's kind of a thorn right now in today's world. And I think communication is huge because I have people that ghost me at all aspects of the process, where they apply and you try to set up an interview and you never hear back from them. And we email them, we call them, we text them, nobody hears back. Just tell us you got another job. It's okay. We're not going to be mad. But we're using time that we could be using on another candidate when we're chasing somebody that looks good on paper. Set up an interview with someone, they don't answer the phone, they don't show up on the Teams link, they don't show up to a hiring manager interview. Just communicate and do not show up. Always follow up. If you got another job, great. If an emergency came up, okay, do you want to reschedule? It's a huge thing. If I hire you and you get something else in between and you don't show up to orientation or on your first day of work, we've had that happen. I had that happen just not too long ago. Just let us know that you're not coming, because then I worry that something has happened to you. And so I try to call you to say, hey, did you get lost or what? And no communication. So I think that's huge. People need to have that professionalism, and just caring for others and being reasonable, and just knowing that, you just burned a bridge if you don't do that.
Right. Thank you. That is so critical, that communication piece. And you really made an excellent point. When you're applying for a position, even if you think it is not something that you want, but if you've made that commitment, have the courtesy to follow up, because you never know. When we talk about networking, when Julie brought that up, you never know when you might run into that employer again at some point, and you really don't want to burn a bridge. So you want to follow through and keep that communication going. That's an excellent point. Nita, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Laura, you're preaching to the choir here. I love that. As a fellow recruiter, I definitely agree with you 100%. And everybody here too. Communication is a huge thing, but something that I also thought of while everybody was speaking is knowing what resources are available to you and to your fellow employees too, right? So when we're onboarding, when we're bringing on a new hire, they have questions, right? And so a lot of it is, who do I go to for this? Who do I go to for that? Whether it's IT, whether it's HR, whether it's, a Genesis One portal, or it's where's a certain documentation. And so I think knowing what resources are available to our employees and to our new hires, I think that's a big piece too. Communication, teamwork, everything that everybody said here as well. Definitely 100% agree.
Wonderful, thank you. And then Anne, do you have anything else you would like to add in terms of professional skills?
Yes, I would say people skills is the most important, as everyone has mentioned, internal and external customers. Professional respect, I think, is also very important in the group setting and even one-on-one. Once we get people skills, technical is also very important in our industry, and I'm sure in other industries as well. But I believe it was Pete that said, you start off with good communication, good people skills, and the technical aspect can be taught.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So a question for everyone, and maybe those more in HR, but when someone is submitting a resume, do you have an applicant tracking system? You know, any kind of software that kind of manages, is that, okay, I see some head nods, this is great. So when they are submitting a resume, you know, what would you recommend? I'll go ahead and start with Erin.
So I would make sure that all the information I need, relevant information, is on there, as well as your correct contact information. I have a candidate who applied for a high-level position. I sent an email to him. It's the wrong email address, and it's on his application and his resume. So I'm seeing if I can get a hold of him by phone. Right now, haven't heard back from him yet, but just making sure your contact information is correct is really, really important, or else we can't get a hold of you. Even making sure you answer your voicemail and your voicemail is set up and not full would be I would say the biggest obstacle I come across when people are submitting it. But and I will say at FirstSource, we go through everybody's stuff personally. A computer doesn't tell us yes or no. We look at every single application that comes in. So I'm looking like did you capitalize, you know, the proper, you know, the first letter of the word in your name even, and things like that, because just put your attention to detail on your application, I think really translates to your attention to detail on the job.
Oh, that's an excellent point. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and Laura, I'll jump right to you too.
Well, even though Erin and I are at the same company, we get different things sometimes. And I had an application the other day that everything was typed in capital letters. Do not type everything in capital letters, because I didn't read it. It was too hard to read. You know, there was no resume attached to the application. I personally feel that every person needs to have a resume. There's no reason not to have a resume. I mean, you've got Google has documents, Word has documents. There's all kinds of help out there to help you do it. Indeed helps you do a resume. So there's no reason not to have a resume, and make sure that's attached to an online application that you do. So those are just big pet peeves, and gaps. Like I had a lady the other day that there was like a 15-year gap in her employment that she put on there. And I said, oh, I see this gap. Do you mind sharing with me what you were doing during this time? And she said, oh, I was in the medical field at that time. It doesn't mean anything. And I said, excuse me. So she left out a big part of her employment because she didn't think it was pertinent. All employment is pertinent. And you look for the job hoppers, and of course 2020 and 2021 I say are anomalies, because people are just taking jobs to have a job, and so I'm kind of looking at those as anomalies. But prior to that, did they jump every 3 months? Did they jump every 12 months? Why aren't they staying at their employers? So a lot of different things in there. Be truthful, honest, and put it on there. Don't think to skip it.
Thank you. That is wonderful. And you brought up a great point. We have career coaching and employer connections. We have career coaches to help our students with that resume development, with those interview skills. And so, we want to encourage our students to take advantage of those resources. And, our employers are willing to help. This is wonderful to give these tips and this advice, and to show that, those important details are critical, because they can translate to what happens on the job. So Nina, you had nodded as well to this question, so I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Definitely. So first I would say, make sure that it's the right resume as well. So funnily enough, we look through hundreds of resumes a day, right? So funnily enough, for one of my roles, I had reached out to a candidate, and he goes, oh, that's not the right one. That's my that's my friend's resume. I said, what? They had the same last name. And so, I had my sourcing call ready to go, but it was the wrong skill set and like the wrong questions that I was going to ask. So last minute, like 2 minutes before the call, I had to shift like everything because he had a different skill set than his friend. So it was just crazy. So I would say make sure it's yours and make sure it's the correct resume. And B, formatting too, Erin and Laura, you mentioned this as well. Keep it simple. We tend to the graphics and everything, unless it's a graphic design role, then, feel free to add in, but the graphics and everything, it gets a little distracting. And so we may or may not read it. It's nice, don't get me wrong, it's pretty to look at, but if we're looking at a software engineer role, if we're looking at an associate software engineer role, we're looking for coding, we're looking for what languages, we're looking for a background, tech background, health background, whatever the case is. Just keep it simple, keep it precise.
Great, thank you, thank you. Anyone else who would like to respond to that question?
I'd just like to talk about the resume a little bit, right? So yes, you must have a resume. And I think it's very important to be strategic about the way you present your resume. I mean, if you're a student at this point in time, your strongest points are your academics, right? So make sure to highlight that. Keep that on top, right? So that, because that would be the first thing that the reviewer looks at. Make sure you're strategic, put your strongest points at the top. If your GPA is really good, you're above a 3, put it there as well. Because at this point in time, these are the things you have to compete against other candidates. Now, if you have actually had real life work experience outside of internships, then you flip the script and you make sure to highlight your real work experience. And as you go along, you might have to continue to change the format, right, depending on where your strengths are. Don't feel, that you have to be constrained to a certain one format for a resume. Depending on where you're going and what you're doing, look out for where your strengths are and how they'll stand out, and redo the resume to fit the role that you're applying for.
Thank you. Thank you. Great insight. Great advice. Awesome. Anyone else like to speak to this topic?
Hey, Sabrina, I was just going to say too that, so I'm not in HR. However, I did have a past experience where, I've been in, the same organization for 7 years, right? And not actively looking to go elsewhere, things like that. And so maybe this is different when you're coming right out of school, but I'm interested from the recruiters on the call. My experience when applying for, roles outside of Cummins, or, having a recruiter, try to recruit you or something. I had in my mind what a resume should look like. It should be high level. It should be just very short and sweet. And on one occasion in the past where I was looking for another opportunity, getting feedback from the recruiter on what to include, that was so helpful. Having them kind of not tee you up to what to put in there, but every company might be different, and the hiring manager might have a different aspect, or you need to highlight certain things. Obviously, you need to tailor your resume to the role that you're applying for. But I'm curious from some of the recruiters here, do you, if a candidate were to come to you and say, do you have any recommendations on my, on the resume? Do you provide feedback there?
We do, and we're asked, at least from our end, we do. Peter, you bring up a really great point, and it's something that I want to make sure that I share, is that when you're looking at a job description, it is clues for that candidate to really tailor their resume to what we're looking for. Usually there's minimum qualifications, but usually there's something listed as additional skills and preferences, or those nice to have that we're looking for from a recruitment standpoint. You can edit your resume to really highlight that experience. If we're looking for, a nice thing to have would be X number of years of experience working in a certain area. you can summarize that in your, your main statement at the top of your resume. One thing I always recommend is to don't title your resume for a certain role. Partly because I think, much like, what Laura and Nina mentioned, that, it's the attention to detail. Your resume is our first impression of you. And if you're applying to a marketing role, but the title of your resume is biology, we're not going to look at any further. We see biology, you know what, that's probably not what we're looking for, and you'll pass on that candidate. So it's something that, save it clearly in your save file under your name, so you don't send someone else's resume, one, but also make sure that you're not titling it for a role that you applied to, last week. There's a lot of attention to detail that is needed, because when we look at your resume, and if there's, misspellings or formatting like concerns, like if something is bolded when it's not supposed to be bolded, if everything is all in caps, I feel like you're yelling at me, and that's not the impression that I want to give to my hiring manager. And as a hiring manager, they haven't had a chance to meet with you, so really your resume is telling them everything you want to tell. I mean, you want to entice them to reach out and say, you know what, this is the person I want to talk to. Based on this resume, they have the experience, they have the attention to detail. They are exactly the person that I want to bring in for an on-site interview. One of the things, I think it was, Laura, you mentioned something about addressing the gap. That is something that I have talked to so many candidates about. Just because a role may not be pertinent to, or may not directly reflect the role that you're applying for, it's important to at least put a statement in there. Just say, for between these years, I was taking care of, a sick parent, or between these years, I took time to be with family. It answers so many questions, and it gives a basis of kind of understanding that, you weren't just, doing nothing, or could potentially have been incarcerated in some cases that I've learned. So definitely something important to consider when you're putting your resume together.
Thank you, Liberty. Yes, Erin.
And the only thing I was going to say too is, the resume should be factual. There's a difference between fluff and focusing it on a certain position. And a third recruiter on our team, we had a candidate apply for one of my positions and for one of her positions, and he submitted 2 totally different resumes with different dates, different job titles, like just it didn't jive. So, she drew the short straw to call him to find out what's going on. And sometimes we do that just, I think, to help him realize what he's done, so that maybe he can learn for the next time. So sometimes I think the guidance we give might not be super like, Peter, you need to change this, but asking them questions so that the wheels start turning in their heads, so that they realize what maybe they could do differently next time.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Erin. So, we talk about what needs to be put on the resume. So let's talk a little bit about the actual interview. So, when that face-to-face meeting happens, what does that look like in terms of characteristics or skills that someone has that leaves that impression on you? So I'm going to go ahead and pose this question to Carrie quickly in terms of an interview.
Well, in terms of an interview, I like to ask about what is motivating them. Why are they looking at our company? Why are they looking to leave, or why did they leave their last employer? Just to have some insight. I want to know if they have the skills and express confidence during an interview, and make eye contact and be forthcoming. And I feel that they, project honesty, throughout the interview. So those are some things that I look for. And especially just like on the resume question, definitely gaps in job hopping. And we like to test those in an interview if we choose to interview them, and see the responses. So.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. That's a big point. And then Anne, do you have some thoughts in terms of, when someone comes in to interview, what you're looking for, the impression that interview leaves?
Yes. First impressions oftentimes in an interview. So present yourself professionally. And sometimes it may be virtual nowadays, but you still want to dress for success. I think that's important. Again, the communication skills, very important. There may be some jobs that you are interviewing for where it may not be verbal communication, but it certainly will be on the interview. So beware of that. And also, I think it was mentioned before, but oftentimes it's, what was your interest in the job that you applied for? Why did you apply for this job? What are your goals too? So, but certainly presenting yourself well is very important.
Yes, thank you. That is so critical. And I think people forget, oh, Laura, I see you raise your hand. Go right ahead. Oh, you're on mute. You can unmute for me. There you go.
I think it's doing it by itself. It's got a mind of its own today. My computer is alive. I think dress code is huge for an interview, and as many virtual interviews as we've done, like if you're the interviewee, you can see your picture on the screen. So if only your eyes and nose are being seen, put the phone back further, or, test it out with a family member or a friend so that you're comfortable doing, the video interview. I've had people where I have to coach them all the way through, or maybe they're walking and I'm like, you need to go sit down. You're making me dizzy with how you're moving up the phone. So virtual interviewing, you should be sitting somewhere, sitting still, sitting in your car, not driving, but doing things so that you can see what kind of picture you're portraying to the person you're interviewing with, because it's first impressions. Do they know how to use technology? Also, I think people have gotten really laxed in dress code, and they're not putting forth the, what they want to do for that first impression. If you're going for a professional interview with a bank, a shirt and tie for a man, a nice shirt, dress for a lady, sweater, something like that, but not a polo shirt that has a hole in it that I can see on the video, or, just different things that have happened over the years. You still need to put your best foot forward. It's still first impression, whether it's on video or in person, and just know that, you're being evaluated from the minute you walk in the door if you're going in person. That receptionist is evaluating you, because that hiring manager is going to say, well, how did they interact with you? Did they sit in the lobby on the phone the whole time? Were you there on the phone when it was time to do the interview? Leave your phone in your car. It's okay to be without your phone for a little bit. Put it on silent. Don't let it be the first thing to ring when you walk in and sit down in an office. And the same thing in the virtual world. Have things quiet around you. Lock yourself in a room so that your kids aren't bothering you, or maybe have a play date for them where they go to the neighbor's house. Just different things like that. But it's really big for that first impression.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is such an important point. I think at this point, we're going to switch gears. I have a question for those of you that have internship experiences, who have either have internships available or have experienced an internship. So I'm going to ask the question, what makes a successful internship? Our students, we really want them to be engaged in work and learn opportunities. And so that's everything from job shadowing to that internship opportunity. So does anyone would like to speak on that topic? And I know we've done a lot with Lily, and there's different opportunities. So Liberty, would you like to start that conversation?
Sure. We do have internship opportunities. I think what would make someone very successful would be just to continuously engage, much like what we had said about, like resumes and like making a great first impression. Our internships are really evaluation processes. So we're looking for the associate to bring their best self to work, whether it's virtually or in person. It goes from everyone that you connect with, like was just previously said, that the first person you meet to the last person you meet, usually the supervisor or the supervising team will hear feedback. And it's always great to make a really great impression, no matter if it's the first or the last, of course. But I think it's something that we try to make sure that all of our associates, whether internship, apprentice, full-time associate, we want people who are intellectually curious. It's not bad to ask questions, and we'd rather you ask the question than be quiet. So never feel bad about asking a question during your time with us.
Wonderful advice. Thank you. Anyone else have anything to share in regards to an internship?
I can share a little bit of insight, Sabrina. So I recruit for our internship program for Genesis. So our internship program runs during the summer. So I kind of have a two-part answer. So one, looking for leading up to the internship, and then during the internship itself. So the advice that I have for, when it comes to looking for an internship, when it comes to applying, be engaged with your school. So being engaged with, for in this example, Ivy Tech, they're going to have career fairs. And most of the time, there's going to be hiring managers who are actively looking for their internships. So, attending those career fairs, Genesis is there a lot, Lilly is there a lot too. So, those career fairs are a really important piece, I think, and, getting to know your hiring managers, getting to know companies. There's going to be a lot of different companies there, and there's going to be a lot of, what interests students. There's going to be just a lot of good face, maybe not so much right now in person, but, virtual career fairs, we're definitely, companies are there. That's a really good resource for students. There's a lot of good conversation, lots of good ambassadors from different companies. So attend those career fairs. It's a huge piece to get your foot in the door, and to even just, get your name out there. And, recruiters will remember who they speak to at career fairs. We remember, oh yeah, we spoke to Erin, she was great. We spoke to Laura, Peter, they were all great. And so that translates well into getting their names in front of our hiring managers and what they're looking for. And then, so in terms of the actual internship itself, everybody kind of mentioned it here, but communication, engagement is a really big one. So as you're in your internship, engagement is a huge piece. I can speak to Genesis's internship a little bit. We have, water cooler chats, we have office chats, we have, internship engagement meetings, and, they happen about, I'd say maybe once a month, but highly encourage our interns to attend those, because it's all about the communication, all about your networking. If Genesis is your first internship, this is going to go a long way, right? So, making those connections as soon as you can, engaging in the actual internship itself too, and showing up well as well, that goes without saying. But I would say those two things, in terms of a successful internship, those what I would say and what I'd had on my.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So I know we're getting a little bit short on time, and we have some students who have some questions specifically for our panel. So I'm going to pull a few of these out, and if we don't get to all the questions, that's okay. We'll get them answered, but let's pull out a couple here. Let's see. We can start with Samantha. She asks the question, how do you deal with managers or people above you in your job that you believe they're making bad decisions for the company or for other employees? So who would like to, Aduli, would you like to?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that question. So the great thing about working at a place like IU Health is that we have systems and processes, right? So when you're engaged, you know who your HR representative may be. You know, you have maybe a mentor, you have maybe, you know, you can find a sponsor, you have a buddy at work, right? So you don't walk into the space blindly without having any fallback. And so when you encounter an issue, there are opportunities to either go through HR if you need, you know, you have a complaint, whether you want to make that complaint and say it's you, or if you want to handle anonymously, depending on what kind of complaint it is and how concerned you are, right? Because some people say things like, I'm uncomfortable, I'm worried about potential retaliation, I don't know how this will affect my relationship with my manager, I need to feel like I'm in a safe space. So there are multiple opportunities, right, based on the processes and systems that we have to allow you to bring that issue up, to a person who is trained to handle either through the complaint system, or there might be like a line that you may be able to call and share that, you know, that complaint, and then allow the system, you know, to work. And if you're called upon to provide additional information, typically, if you make a complaint of some sort, there might be need to have an investigation. You know, do your best to participate as much as possible in the investigation, because the information that comes out through an investigation may be able to help build either the resources needed to tackle it going forward. So I'd say keep an open mind and use the systems and processes in place to address, you know, issues of that nature, but don't take it personally.
Well, thank you. That's excellent advice. And that's really an important way to view. So another question that we had from one of our students, I like this one. I'm an employee and a student. What advice can any of you give to a student who works and studies at school? So creating that balance. I'll just see, Pete, would you like to answer that question or start?
Yeah, I can certainly try.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you have to develop some sort of system that works for you, and a system that allows you to prioritize, you know, the key aspects of your life that are going on. So what's the priority? And I do that just by creating systems for myself to say, you know, I got to make sure that I'm tackling the most important things. So I would imagine that if you're balancing both of those, you know, you're going to be doing some work while you're at school, and you're probably going to be doing some school while you're at work. So it's finding that balance and keeping things in, you know, organized clearly, and making sure that you're staying on top of things, you know, the most critical things. Time management, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's what's so, you know, even now, right? Like different aspects of our lives that we have going on. It's every day we've got to make decisions that what's the most important thing that I get to today.
Anne, do you have any thoughts on work life, school balance?
Yeah, that obviously is what we all deal with. And again, it is time management. I think with your employer, if they're aware of the situation, depending upon the industry, but there could be some flexibility as to doing some of your work at hours that are more conducive to your home life and your school life, so to speak. And I think those opportunities are, there's more flexibility now in many positions and many industries with more remote capabilities than there used to be even before COVID. So I would encourage you to talk with your employer or your manager and see if there's a way to work that to fit into your schedule.
That's great. Great advice. Super advice. So we're going to move to another question. Unless someone has anything else they would like to add, I think. Okay. So this is a great question. What are some suggestions for someone who will be applying for a job in a particular field, but has no experience in that field? They're basically fresh out of school. What would you advise? So I see Aduli smiling, so everybody has an opportunity here. So Aduli, you can go first and then we'll just go around the room here.
So I think this is the typical, right, ready to graduate, ready to go into a career issue. You have a degree in international relations and you're looking for a job in government affairs, right? So you feel that you have enough in terms of coursework or the credential on your, resume, but you really don't have any practical experience. The good thing is that the recruiter knows that as well, right? I mean, sometimes we overburden ourselves with trying to do more than we need for the interview. When you apply for the position, the recruiter saw what your what your skill set was. They knew that you only had the degree and no work experience. And so you go in there and you highlight that, right? And if you have any volunteer experience or any transferable skills, and then your enthusiasm. And I always tell students, try and connect with your recruiters or the people who interview you beyond just the job. Because in the final analysis, we're trying to hire somebody that maybe will fit into the company culture, will be able to engage and interact, right? So when we walk away from the interview, who do you remember and what else do we remember? Try and connect and just give yourself the opportunity to share what you have. Don't make up things, right? Don't make up things because you want to get that position and hope for the best, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Erin, I think I saw you smiling as well. I think we all smile at this question because we've all been there. We have all not had experience and you have to start somewhere. So, our students would love any thoughts.
So if possible, like say before you graduate, trying to get entry level, part-time position, volunteering, just something like see if you can get in there, an internship. But if not, I think don't be afraid to start entry level. Everyone on this call started entry level at some point, and you got to move your way up. And, there's someone that works at the bank. After 10 years of being here, she's vice president, division head of her department. It's just this amazing story. And I said, what did you start when you were here? She started admin entry level and worked her way up. And so I share that with everyone. And I'm like, she even says to start in that role, it was paying me less than what a different job she had offered to her was paying. But she wanted to work for First Source. She saw the potential, and it's, a good thing that she did. And everyone has rent or a mortgage and food and whatnot, right? But, sometimes taking that step backwards or not being afraid to start entry level is going to get you where you want to be quicker than just giving up and switching from industry to industry to industry, looking for that dollar. Sometimes you just got to stick with it and work your rear off, to get promoted.
Hey, Sabrina,
Yes,
I'd like to add something to that. And I've been itching to make this comment since we were talking about the interviews, because I had a recent experience, internal interview, where I got the feedback, which, by the way, for hiring managers, or if any of you on the call are ever a hiring manager, one of the greatest things you can do for a candidate is give them feedback if they didn't get whether they got the role or not, right? So in this case, I didn't get the role, but I got some feedback on my interviewing skills. And so I promise I'm going to tie this into the question that we're looking at, Sabrina. But it was, hey, Pete, you really need to work on being able to articulate your strengths. And it was almost like you didn't do you could have done a better job at selling yourself with some of your skills. And I think that is a huge skill to bring when you're searching for roles, and when you're preparing for an interview, is definitely be able to articulate your strengths and why and how they apply to the role. So one of the things that I've done that's been super helpful to me, just in general, and I would encourage everyone, on the all the participants to do this is I created a professional bio for myself and said, hey, Pete Lustig is a sales enablement professional with 7 years of experience and work in these different types of roles. And then at the bottom of that, I had like different categories of like experience and things like that. And one of them was transferable skills. And so put your head together and start thinking creatively. If it's something where you don't have experience in that industry, how can you articulate, or how can you tie a transferable skill to that role? What have you been able to do in another aspect of your life or a past role that you feel you would be able to transfer that to the role that you're applying for? So I think just being able to articulate that is really important.
Oh, that's an excellent point, Pete. Really excellent point. Really recognizing what those strengths are and how to identify those transferable skills, and that's fantastic.
Yeah,
So-
hey, I'm still learning things like that, right?
I think we're all learning.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I know we are getting close to the end of our time. So what I'd love for everyone to do in 10 words or less, I'm going to go around and last words of advice for our students, in terms, anything that's relevant to their resume, interviews, internships, anything for their career, any advice that you can give. I'm going to just go right across the board. So we're going to start with Anne, and any words for our students.
Okay, and I would like to make a comment about the internship question, because I run into this so often with Ivy Tech students. The norm, at least for the insurance industry, has been they're used to working with 4-year degree programs. Typically, the student is junior in standing, and it's a summer internship. I've been on the industry group I work with, I've been working with the employers to hopefully get them to understand, if you're working with a community college with Ivy Tech, you're not going to have a junior in standing. It may not be a summer internship. There's fall, there's winter, and then there's the 2 summer sessions. So in answer to that question, I think reach out to the employer. Hopefully you can connect with them and help them understand that your community college, that you're working towards an associate's degree or a technical certificate, which may not even be an associate degree. So I wanted to make sure that people understand to connect with the employer, and there may be some other opportunities. So, and then other than that, it's reach out to any of the employers that you can. There's so many industries represented. There's so many opportunities to connect to employers around the state in so many different areas. Lots of job openings, lots of graying of certain industries, looking for diversity as well. So connect through your talent coordinators, through Ivy Tech, and there's other employer lists. So much success for sure.
Thank you, Anne. That was brilliant. Really appreciate that. Aduli, would you like to go next? Any words of advice? For
So I would say, if you're looking to transition into a role, whether you're actually a student or you're already, employed, remember that your resume is evolving, right? Your resume is not set in stone. It's evolving, and you continue to improve upon it as you go along. Don't create it and leave it. And then each time you have an opportunity, you just pick it up and move it on. Always keep it alive, keep it alive. And then I believe in the power of networking. So as you navigate either the schooling or the internships, please keep those contacts, remain engaged as much as possible, because there are opportunities that can come through networking, through networking. And then the other thing is the prepare, right? We always tell people to prepare. And by preparing for your interview, practice, talk in the mirror, right? But you really have to prepare and do some research on the company that you're trying to get hired into, because it's difficult when you get a candidate that tells you, are you health what you do? Right? And you're like, okay, I will tell you what we do. But the question now is, do you actually want to work for and with us, right? Is it something you want to do? So the last thing and the most important is being able to know yourself that this is what I want, and being able to sell it to the person that you're interested in joining, and wishing you the best of luck as you move forward, on this journey.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Excellent. Awesome. Carrie?
Yes, I would have to say to do your homework about the company you are wanting to interview with, that you are seeking employment from. There's nothing more frustrating getting into an interview and just like she just said was, do you know what we do? No, have no idea. Well, then how do you know that you want to work for us? There is information on the internet. There are videos that show what a corrugating box factory does. You can see actually inside of the plant, you can see pictures of the building and the facility to get an idea, a general basis of what you want. Most importantly, in your resume needs to be tailored to the role that you're wanting to fill, where you want to be employed at. That is so important. It doesn't matter if you worked at McDonald's, it doesn't matter if you worked at a shoe store, it doesn't matter. All we are also looking for is progression in your resume to see that you are stepping up to the next level and building on yourself and wanting more. Those are very key factors for us.
Thank you, Carrie. Awesome information. Great. Liberty, any final thoughts for our students?
Yeah, definitely agree with everything that has already been said. Some things to note is if you put it on your resume, be prepared to talk about it. You can list all your skills, and if we say, you know, hey, you listed that you're a people person, tell me a little bit more about that. Be prepared to say, you know, why you're a people person. Cannot agree more with the previous mentions of doing your research on the company. Try to tell your story, be able to sell your story, why you're interested in the company you're interviewing for. And it could be personal to you. No one can tell you what that story is. But being able to connect it and reflecting that, yes, you know exactly what the company does and why you want to work there, it's extremely important.
Thank you, Liberty. That's awesome. And I know we're a little over our time, but it's so worth it. So Erin, I'm going to give you some time.
Just to add, what everyone said was fantastic, but I think the first time you interview, it might not go well. The first time you go to network, it might not go well. The first time you do everything, practice, keep doing it. Don't give up, and you're going to be a rock star. You got to mess up a few times before you learn from your mistakes. So don't be afraid.
Oh, awesome. Nina?
I would just say, and this kind of goes into the networking piece, start updating your LinkedIn now, or if you don't have a LinkedIn, definitely make one. That's a huge a source that us recruiters look at. We have our applicants in our ATS, but let's say we have a low traffic job, we'll go to LinkedIn and we'll actively look for candidates on there too. So make sure your LinkedIn is nice and updated. It has all the nice relevant information because we definitely look at that.
Great. And Laura?
I think
Final
just
thought?
back to professionalism and respect for who you're applying with. No, I'm going to say baloney because I'm going to be professional myself, but don't feed us a line because we can read through it. All of us have been doing it long enough. I had an interview the other day that I knew by the end of the interview, there's no way, as long as I'm sitting in this recruiting chair, that person's getting hired here where I work, because there was nothing credible about what they said. So don't try to fool us. My grandmother always said, if you never lie, you don't have to remember what you said. And so just be honest, truthful, and respectful.
Wonderful. Thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you so much
Sabrina?
for, yes.
Could I add one more thing?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely, Carrie. Jump
So
right in.
during the interview process, when at the end of the interview, we always say, do you have questions for us? Come with questions about the company, about the position. Come with those questions. It shows that you're interested, you're engaged. Not maybe ask like, well, what will I become here if I'm employed? If I'm in this role, what does that look like? What is the progression? What is the next level after that? Show that you're interested in the role, show that you're interested in the company, and come back with questions with them. At least five good questions to ask the company when you're interviewing with them.
That's excellent advice. I mean, that shows that engagement and that they really are, they really are interested. I want to be here and I want to learn more. And that just shows their automatic involvement. So that's fantastic advice. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We all appreciate it. So we just want to thank everyone for attending the event, the students, our colleagues, our prestigious employer panel. We just are so grateful for having all of you here. And we know that our students have received incredibly valuable information. So this really concludes our program for today. And thank you again. If anyone wants to stay on for a little bit, they can if there's other questions, but we are done. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you,
us.
Take
everyone.
care.
It's great to
Great.
meet you.
Thank you so much.
Sabrina. Thanks, Jessica.